H2O. Fuck yeah! Welcome back to the Doctor's Library. Here we'll be visiting part 3 of The Book Thief. Mein Kampf. The title of this part. Definitely interesting, as we've all said throughout this entire book. But this book really is interesting, really is good. Mein Kampf is the title of an actual book. Was written by Adolf Hitler, or written because of Adolf Hitler. And Mein Kampf means my struggle. So my struggle to the point of Adolf Hitler. Okay. This is just after she steals her second book, The Shoulder Shrug. The reason why this book was being burned was because it was about a Jew who was the protagonist, and he was portrayed in a very positive light, and none of the Nazis wanted that because they all hated Jews. So starting right where we left off, Liesel gets home with the book, and she pretty much immediately shows it to Hans Zimmerman. And the first thing he says is, I quote, "Looks like I don't need to trade any more cigarettes, do I? Not when you're stealing these things faster than I can buy them." Reason number 5 why I love Hans. That quote right there. However, the next thing that happens is actually sort of scary. Not scary as in like haunted house horror movie kind of scary. It's like a, oh my god, what is going on kind of scary, like a worrisome apprehension of what's about to happen. And he says, "Jesus, Mary, and Joseph!" Each word fell away at its edges. It broke off and formed the next. And Hans really doesn't go into that at all. Not at all. I mean, it's just that's it. Liesel tries to apologize and asks Papa not to tell Rosa, and thinks that Liesel is the problem here. And she tries to calm Papa and make sure and know what he's thinking. But Papa just says, "No, it's okay, Liesel. You're safe. You're safe with me." However, the next thing that Hans does is a little interesting. He goes and sells some cigarettes for a copy of Mein Kampf for himself and his family, so that they look more like a Nazi family for safety reasons and what I will explain in the last episode. However, I think my favorite part of this entire part, is the Mayor's Library. How the person in the shadow that we were talking about last part was actually the mayor's wife. And instead of, calling her out to the Nazi party and saying, like, she stole a book and she has books and burn her to the stake, like a witch or as a Jew or whatever like that, she actually invites her in and shows her her entire library of thousands upon thousands of books. Walls full of books, stacked high and stacked crossways, just full of books. And she visits there. The first time she visits there, she's just awestruck. She just doesn't know how to react to this. She just sees all of these books, and she just doesn't know how to react. She goes and touches as many of these books as she can. She wonders, how many books have I touched? How many books have I seen? This is just incredible. The best things I've ever seen. And after a little while, she sees the mayor's wife. So the mayor's wife's real name is Ilsa Hermann. And the name of another boy in one of the books in the mayor's library, Johann Hermann, is a very close person to Elan, who she lost. I don't know if it was a husband or a son. I honestly don't know. But this was definitely a hard hit for her. And a lot of these books might even be from Johann's collection that she brought over with the mayor, whenever that was, or whatever circumstances that was. Personally, I don't know. The recollection on file is, oh yes, I definitely remember him. The sky was murky and deep like quicksand. There was a young man parceled up in barbed wire, like a giant crown of thorns. I entangled him and carried him out. High above the earth, we sank together to our knees. It was just another day, 1918. Apart from everything else she said, he froze to death. For a moment she played with her hands, and she said it again. He froze to death. I'm sure of it. So, definitely interesting lines to use. I mean, the recollection. The sky was murky and deep like quicksand. There was a young man parceled up in barbed wire. High above the earth, we sank together to our knees. It was just another day in 1918. But he froze to death. I'm sure of it. Is Elon not sure? Or is she possibly, questioning whether what happened actually happened? Whatever did happen? I guess we may never know. But the fact that some of these books haven't been burned yet, I'm starting to wonder if the mayor knows about this, or how good of a secret keeper that the mayor's wife is. Because if the mayor hasn't gone into one room of his house and sees this entire wall of books and doesn't want 3/4 of them burned because they're not about Nazi Germany and praising its whole existence, then what is he doing? Interesting question to ponder. Now, I want to go back a little bit because I passed a chapter looking for Elon's name, and this chapter, Enter the Struggler. This was the weirdest chapter I've read so far in this book, because it suddenly brings upon a character called Max. And we'll figure out later in this part that Max and Lizelle are going to meet and mix and mingle in some way. They're very big changes seemingly, because at the end is really, really weird. In the final paragraph, he was speaking to a man he had never met, as well as a few other important details. He knew the man's name, Hans Huberman. Again, he spoke to him, to the distant stranger. He pleaded, please. Whoa, Hans Huberman, what have you been doing? You naughty boy. Well, that just struck me as a little scary, as suddenly some random person we just met knows Hans Huberman pleading for him to help. In the second chapter of The Struggler, we see that he's actually in a train being shipped off to somewhere else, most likely concentration camp. And his friend helps out and gives him a way to escape and a way to relive his life without being a Jew, and helps him with that. And his friend who helps him is Walter Kugler. Walter Kugler. And Max's full name is Max Vandenberg. So, Max Vandenberg, a Jew, who has a copy of Mein Kampf on him to make him seem more Nazi German-like, and is reading that book word for word in as much detail as he can to try and pick apart and keep himself company, I guess, as to what Nazi Germany is. And his friend, Walter Kugler, helps him out by giving him the book, as well as one small razor, a spoon, shaving cream, a pair of scissors, a map, and a key to a door on Himmel Street in Building 33, which he goes to with a suitcase in one hand and Mein Kampf in the other. So we now have two relatively important people at Himmel Street. We have in this hand we have Lizelle, in this hand we have Max Vandenberg. And the author says, the narrator says, that we will eventually be mashing these two together. So, here's needs a few more pages, which I'm guessing will be part 4. So there's that coming up. However, I'm unsure about this Max Vandenberg. He seems like a pretty freaking awesome guy. I mean, walking quite a long way and enduring everything he has as a Jew. But I'm worried about how Max's involvement will either hinder or change Lizelle for the worse. It could be that he doesn't, and that would be fantastic. But there's always that slight possibility. You never know the author and what he might do. He might throw some random twist in there, or have some characters do something that you don't really want them to. But anyway, Andy Berg is a kid who leads a bunch of different kids to a bunch of different farms, and they go out and steal the crops, as many as they can, and put them in a bunch of these stacks, and they run off with them. And when you first meet him, Lizelle and Rudy are both going to steal apples for him, and with his gang. So they each thrown a sack because they talked their way into being trusted, and so they're thrown a sack, and they go out and retrieve a bunch of apples, and And they come back, and they come back, and Arthur is just amazed that they could do that so well in their first try. So they were each given a half dozen apples each to split, and they ate all of them on the walk home. So they all got sick, and Lizelle was in the back, was throwing up all over the place, and Rosa was really mad at her, like, why are you throwing up? What is this? What is going on here? Why are you throwing up in my pea soup? Is it really that bad? And Hans Huberman perks up and says, oh, I don't know, it might have been that pea soup, because, I'm feeling a little sick myself. Great line. Why I love Hans Huberman. Hans Huberman is by far the best character to date so far, just because of his wittiness and his awesomeness. Followed very closely by Lizelle, though, just because she's awesome. So, they meet up with Arthur Berg again, but this time they have stolen from somebody who they had been stalking over the past couple of months, and saw him doing the same routine every Friday, taking some food to the priests. And they set up a trap on the icy road during the middle of winter, and when Otto drove his bike over the ice, he slid and fell on its face, basket flying one way, him and his bike and everything else flying the other way. And so Rudy and Lizelle picked up the basket of goodies, of produce. There was some broken eggs, some bread, and some ham. And they took it back to Arthur, and Arthur divvied up the spoils between all of his comrades and all of his people who he leads, all the little kids, and they all sat down and had a great feast. They cooked up what egg they could get back. They presented all the bread, and they cooked up all the ham, and they all spread it out evenly. But then there was an argument over the basket, and Arthur, being awesome as he is, he decided to give it back to Rudy and Lizelle to give back to Otto. So after they were done with Arthur Berg, and Arthur moved out of Himmel Street, Arthur gave Lizelle and Rudy a bunch of chestnuts, and they split one. They had one each, actually. They had one each, and they went door to door selling the rest, and they overall got 16 coins. Now, a couple chapters before, they had gone to Frau Diller, who was the shopkeeper on near Himmel Street, and was really, really big on Nazi Germany, and had a Hail Hitler poster. And every time you walked into the shop, you had to say Hail Hitler, or else she would not serve you at all. So Frau Diller, they walked into Frau Diller a couple pages back with one coin and asked for a mixed candy, and all they got was one. And Frau Diller was like, just mix the candy yourself, come on, for one measly coin. So they walked back in with 16 coins, and Frau Diller just dropped her jaw. And this line is the best line ever. The framed Fuhrer looked proud of them. Which is a great line ever. I laughed for like 5 minutes at that one. So great. Like, going on 16 coins. Mixed candy, please. The Fuhrer's like, nice job. I think that actually concludes part 3. Not really. I don't think there was anything more I wanted to talk about. I mean, I ran through pretty much everything I wanted to talk about. Looking at part 4, I want to see who this struggler guy is, who Max is, and how he'll change Lizelle's life. I want to see how Max and Hans know each other, and it's just really gonna be fascinating next part. Interesting, as we've said about 15,000 times throughout this entire book. But that's okay, because it really is an interesting book, and there's a lot of changes and a lot of, mix-ups that you don't really see coming. So yeah, next week we'll be talking about part 4. So I hope you guys stick around and watch that one. I'm pretty excited about it. It features a Jewish fist fighter. It features a Jewish fist fighter, say that 10 times fast, the accordionist, and the Wrath of Rosa. So, definitely going to be a good part, as all of them have. So, until next time, see you guys around.